Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be working on my 2023 Venom SS3, which is a KP Mini 150. And I'm going to be changing over my sprocket, my front sprocket from a 15 to a 17. Let's go ahead and get started. I got to remove the seat. As you can see, I got a tail bag on it. I have a video on that I'm going to have coming out pretty soon. But this is what I'm going to put in it. Right here. That'll focus. 17 tooth. And this is the chain. I'm going to put a new chain on it while I'm at it. And it's a 128 link, I believe, because I'm not sure how many link is on this bike. But when I'm done, you'll know, because I'm going to count them. Go ahead and pop this cover off. I want to do this from start to finish so you can see the whole process. What it takes to get down to it. That was a, let me look and see, that's a 5mm hex head. And this is going to be a 13 to take the foot peg off. Okay, now we're pretty much down to where we need to be. So we're going to take this cover right here off. There's 2 bolts on it, and they're 8mm. Now I'm hoping that 17 will fit in here good. You can see I'm kind of a grease person. I like to make sure it's got greased chain. I gotta clean that up. I'm just hoping that this 17 tooth will fit. The reason I got a 17 instead of a 16 is because I couldn't get a 16 very quickly, number one. Number two, it was about double the price. I don't know why. Okay, we're going to change this sprocket out. These are 2 10mm bolts. Make sure it's in neutral. And then I just put my foot against the tire. And if you use an impact, it makes it that much easier to take them off. And they're just 2 short little screws. And then this plate, you just got to turn a little bit, line the splines up, and then it pops right off. Like that. See, it's got the teeth on it, so you got to line it up with the spline, and then it slides off. Just take and pop that clip off. There's the clip. So you can see it's got an open end on one end. You want that open end. When you're on the top part of the chain, you want that open end to go in that way, the closed end going towards the bike. And then there's this spacer piece. You have to reuse these pieces unless you have a new master link. And then just pop the master link off like that. And just pull your chain off like so. Now I'm going to count the teeth for you guys. I don't really need to be doing this, but I'm going to do this so that you guys will know how many link the stock chain has, and then we'll count how many link on the new chain so you know what the length is for a 17 tooth sprocket. If you don't know how to count the links on these, all you do is count the rollers. So let me do that. So I counted 106 links on the stock chain. Get some of this grease off my fingers. Okay, let's pull the sprocket off. And that's what the stock sprocket looks like. There's nothing special about it. As you can see, there's the numbers. I don't know if you can see or not. It's a 428 chain, 15 tooth. And this is a JT sprocket. The JT sprockets claim that they're quality Japanese steel, but they are made in Taiwan. So, just so you know, I don't know if that matters to you or not, but probably not, since you're putting it on a Chinese motorcycle anyway. And that's what the sprocket looks like. As you can see, it's got the numbers stamped on it, 17 tooth. This is the difference in the sizes. Quite a bit of difference. I hope there's enough clearance in the inside of there for this. Looks like there might be though. I haven't watched videos of anybody changing this or anything, so I'm not really sure if it fits or not. Okay, now on your counter shaft, it has spines on it, okay? But it's also got a little cutout area around here, all the way around it. I'm going to show you what that's for. You line this up and just slide it on. And then you take your lock piece, your lock ring, and you try to line these up. And then you don't go all the way into your sprocket. You just go to that cutout area, and then you turn it and line it up with your holes in your sprocket. Pull your sprocket out to it like that, and then you're ready to put the bolts in. So you want to get you some blue thread locker, medium strength, removable for your bolts, and then put it on your bolts. Give you a nice little bit on there. When I tighten these up, I just prefer to use my ratchet. Now this is going to turn on me, so I'm not going to be able to get it very tight yet, but just going to snug them down. And once I get my chain put on, then I'll go ahead and snug it down real good and tight. I can hold it a lot better with the wheel than I can right here. All right, that's snugged down. Now don't get freaked out that this thing moves, because they're made to do that. See that? Wiggles. You don't have a worn out counter shaft, you don't have a bad sprocket or anything like that. It's made to do that. Okay, now we're going to loosen the axle nut. And this is a 18 millimeter. I think the other side's a 15 that holds it. And you just want to loosen it. So we'll loosen these. These are 13 millimeter. I got these tight. I like to have these really tight. I don't like them coming loose. You know, that chain that I took off, the stock chain I've had on there, I've got over 200 miles on it now. I've only had to adjust it once, and it kept a good tension. So the chain itself wasn't bad. Okay, then I'm going to loosen this side. You want to loosen it up until you get all the slack out of it, and then push your wheel forward. Okay, so we're going to take our chain and open it up. Now I got 128 length, and I only needed 106, I think it was. I should have wrote that down. My memory's not what it used to be. Okay, and then open this up. I got 128 link because I didn't know. See, I got a new master link with mine, so I'm not reusing my old one. I got 128 link so I could cut it because I wasn't sure of the length on it. And it doesn't really matter which way you put this in. And you want to make sure you got it at the same, on the same route, the same path as your old ones. And this does have a little bit of grease on it, so this is not going to be a clean job. This right here is called your slider. So you want to make sure that's on top of the slider. Okay, then it goes over the top of this bar. You don't want it underneath of that bar. All right. Now, how much slack do I got? That's probably enough to cut it right. So I want to cut this one right here. Okay, I'm going to cut this link. I'm going to grind this link down right here. It's best to use a grinder, but I'm just going to use my cutoff tool. It'll work. I'm going to grind it down to where that's pretty much gone. You can't see the head of that pin anymore. And when you take these, when you cut a chain, you want to make sure that you're cutting the right length. You want the forward part of the link. You see how I got this swivel here? If you cut this end off, you're still going to have this part of the link still on the chain right here. You don't want that. You want that to come off. So you got to cut this part of the link. Okay, once you get it started like that and lined up on the pin that you want, you can take your big adjustment if you got room in there, and you could pull it down with that to get it started. And then you pop it all the way out with this on a fine adjustment. And that'll push that pin all the way out. You could do this with a impact or something, but you got to make sure you got that pin lined up. Otherwise, you're going to bend your tool. And then once you get it in all the way, out pops your pin. So when you're done, you want your chain to have two ends that look the same, like this. So when you put your master link in it, your master link will go in and put it together like it's supposed to. The same length, looks like, still 106. So we're going to put this on. This is going to be the new Japanese quality steel chain, and it looks like it's the same length as what the stock one was. So I guess you don't have to change your chain if you don't want to, if you go to a 17-tooth sprocket, because the thing about chains is they do stretch. Okay, let's slide this chain through here. You got to come up over the top of the slider like that. All right, then we'll go over our sprocket and we'll turn it. Now when you come off the bottom of your sprocket, you want to be over the top of this bar. You don't want to be under it, of this frame. And if your chain comes off the back, don't worry, it'll go right back on. Okie dokie. Now see, we got a lot of slack in that. There's your new master link. You got to pop that clip off, pull it off. Says don't mix it up with the other one. Pull your spacer off. Now you can put your master link in. your spacer. Make sure that's all the way in. And then you want to put this, like I said, the closed end. If you're on top of the chain, you want your closed end going towards your bike. And then line that up into the groove. And with needle nose pliers, you could just pop it in like that. And just make sure it's all the way in by pushing on it. And then you want to look at the opening here, make sure it's closed all the way and it's not spread, because you do not want that coming off. Now it's time for the adjustment part. You want to pull this back. And if you don't have one of these motorcycle stands, I highly recommend it. Then you got to line your plate up in your box channel, your box tubing. Okay, this is a little snug, but it's pretty good. So let's make sure that these plates are at the top on the box channel. Once you feel it's in position where it's supposed to be and you're happy with your adjustment, which mine looks like it's in the same position on both sides, line up your other plate on your other side. And then you can lightly snug your nut. And then set your torque wrench to 55 foot-pounds. Back it up with your wrench. There we go. Now we want to double check to make sure that our adjustment did not move. That one still looks the same. That one looks a little bit looser. Let me tighten this one up just a wee. I think that's about right there. Okay. So we're going to snug this front nut. Put a little pressure on it like that. Put a little pressure on it like that. Because if you don't do that step, if you don't put the extra little bit of pressure on it, then this could come loose. You want a tension between your axle and this tube on the back. The only way to get that is to snug this a little bit before you hit your jam nut tight. And then once you do that, then you can tighten your jam nut. I like those really tight. I do not want that coming loose. Okay, make sure that's good and snug. And when you snug that, sometimes when you snug that front nut, it can possibly move your adjustment just a little bit. So kind of keep an eye on that. And that feels pretty good. I'm happy with that. Let me double check my adjustment. That one's just before the second notch. I'm looking at this notch right here, this first notch. And that's just before the second notch as well. So that's perfect. If you can't hold that with your foot and you want to jam something in there, you can. You can just take your board like this and just put it in one of the vanes on your wheel, and you can hold it that way. Just don't snap them bolts off. Just get them good and tight. Okay. Before I put my lube on there, I just want to do a little wipe off on the chain. And the reason I do that is it was on the floor a little bit, and it might have a little bit of dirt that got picked up off the floor. I just want to get it off of there. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and This is the weapon of choice for me. I really like this chain paste. I mean, it seems like it lasts really well. It doesn't sling off too much, but you just squeeze a little bit of that out, and then you could just put a little on there, and you can just hold your brush on it. And you're going to have globs. I mean, that's bound to happen, but try to get them off as much as you can, spread it around. I usually do this 2 to 3 times. I get a glob 2 to 3 times, and that's all it needs. And what I do is I go a little ways, and then I back it up. And I go a little ways. And if you got a glob where you first started, pick that up with your brush after you've wiped some off, and then just go back and forth. Okay, this chain's short enough, it only needs two globs, it looks like. So this is a 2 glob chain. Okay, I'll just put a little extra on the side here. I've seen a little glob come by. I'm going to see if I can kind of work that one in. Like right there. Because if you get too much in one area, it'll want to fling off on you, and you don't want that. You don't want that stuff everywhere. But you can, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't, but my back wheel's pretty clean. It's got a little bit on it, but it's pretty good. So now we got the chain on and adjusted. It's got a good amount of lubrication on it. Everything's tight. So now we'll put our cover back on. You know, it's cleaned up, so I want to make sure that this isn't going to rub. It looks like I have clearance. Actually, the looks of it might be able to go to an 18-tooth sprocket. I mean, I don't think this bike could sustain an 18-tooth sprocket, but it looks like there's enough room in there where you could probably put one in there if you wanted to, but that's not going to happen for me. Okay, you got to make sure that wire's not getting pinched. There's a little recessed area there. You got to make sure that's lined up. Okay. Then we'll take our 8mm bolt and we'll line it up. And then we'll take this one on the bottom, put it in. Just want to snug those down. Now, this is what I want to show you is this wire right here. When you put this cover on, make sure it's in this cutout area right here. You don't want it in the front right here because you'll pinch the wire in this area here. Don't put it there. Put it back here where it's supposed to be. The wire's good and loose. Looks like it rolls good. Chain adjustment is good. Little on the tight side, but it's not tight. It's just about right. It'll loosen up just a little bit. And it is not rubbing. So that's a good thing. I was worried about that 17 hitting in there, but I think there's even a little bit of room left, so I think we're good. We'll put this cover on first. And then we'll put the foot peg on. The foot peg's got a piece of rubber. It's got a cutout right there for that locator pin, and then that locator pin goes in the hole right above the bolt. So you got to make sure when you put that in that you got that locator pin lined up. And then tighten it up like that. There we go. Then we'll put our cover back on. It's got 2 push pins in the top. We'll just snap them in. And then on mine, I think the upper bolt is a little bit longer than the bottom one. We'll put them in. Well, I made a mistake. That bolt does not need to come out. That bolt just attaches this to this. The only bolt that needs to come out is this bottom one. All right, now that I got that, I'm going to do this by hand, make sure these are tight. I don't like to rely just on my impact. I worked with a guy one time. We were working on a big project, and he tightened something. He tightened it with an impact. And I said, "Aren't you going to double check it?" And he's like, "I don't need to." I said, "Well, I think you do." So I double checked it, and 3 or 4 of the 15 or 20 bolts were loose. Could it have made a difference? You bet it could have made a difference. Well, it's always good to check your work. Put her seat on. Anyway, that'll do it for the front countershaft sprocket change out and new chain with the adjustment and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm done for the day. I appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel a little bit, and I don't know, it just seems like I haven't been getting a lot of views lately, but I appreciate it if you'd show your support by subscribing to the channel. So thanks for watching.